Welcome back to Homeopathy at Home with Melissa. Hey, Melissa.
Hey Bree, I am super excited to introduce Kimberly tonight. She's one of the associates on my team, and I'm so excited to just talk to her and get have people get to know her better. But first,
Fan mail. I feel like Blue's Clues. I should have a little song. Okay, we do have fan mail from Salt Lake City, Utah. And she or he said, "Hello, the only way my sister would possibly consider not vaccinating is maybe with homeoprophylaxis. Would that be safe? How do I find a provider? Can she use that for school and travel? Thank you and God bless."
sweet. So, God bless you too. And I think that you should go and listen to our homeoprophylaxis podcast episode. I believe that's going to answer all of your questions. So, I'm just going to point you to that one. And you guys, if you want to leave fan mail, there's a link. You click it, you can type any question in there. And usually we'll go into detail and answer it. But for this one, I'm going to point you to another podcast episode of ours, and that'll help you. So, welcome, Kimberly. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So happy. So, Kimberly has been with us since early 2024, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I started training with you at the towards the beginning of 2024, and then I started taking my first consults was in April of 24. So it's been just over a year of actually taking cases, and I've learned so much during that time, and it's been amazing.
I have so enjoyed having you on our team because it's there's many reasons, but it's just a pleasure to work with you. There's Kimberly just has such a sweet and humble spirit. And that's so important to me. And I tell people on the free 15-minute phone call, um, when I suggest working with one of my associates, I tell them we're all strong Christians. So, and that always brings people peace. They're like, "Oh, okay, good." Because the reason they wanted to work with me is because I'm a Christian, or one reason is because I'm a Christian. And then when I assure them, so is Kimberly, so is Bree, so is Abby, so is Lisa, so is Julie, then they're like, oh, okay, they feel better. So anyway, I love working with you and I'm so thankful to have you. So let's get to know Kimberly. Bree, what you got?
Well, I also just wanted to say I'm pretty sure, Kimberly, you were in classes years ago, right? Is that how we initially met?
It is. It is. That was 2022. That was when I first started using and learning about homeopathy, and finding Melissa was a total fluke or maybe a divine appointment. Um, I found your specific gateway class. My sister met a girl at a Little League baseball game, and she was talking about me, her sister, who's interested in homeopathy. And that girl was like, I think my sister's taking the same class. And at that point, I had the books for Gateway. I didn't have a study group. And I was like, how do I find a study group? I don't know anybody. And through her, that's how I got, Melissa's website, and then signed up for classes, and, took some more of Melissa's classes, and, the rest is history.
I just remember you've been around for a while. Like
Love it.
I feel like a lot. I mean, that's 3 years. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
That's just
Yeah.
what
Love
I had. I
it.
was thinking about that.
I don't think I knew that. So that's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just really, I mean, couldn't have planned it. I mean, it's like I couldn't have found a position doing this if I had tried.
So yeah, and thank you for bringing that up too. I actually reached out to Kimberly and said, "Hey, like much like I did with Bree, not that, and I hope I'm not sounding arrogant, like I reached out to you, but really, like both of you were, I could see the sweetness and the humbleness. That's what I care about. You can learn that. You can learn the remedies. I need that sweet spirit to work with. So I reached out to Kimberly and was like, "Hey, do you want to come, work?" She was like, "What? Are you serious?"
Well, and to be totally fair too, you were already so active in the Facebook group. I think that's something you had told me you noticed she was answering all the questions at all the classes. So it kind of made sense that you were like, that feels like a good fit. And that's kind of why why I brought that up, because you had been, I do feel like we knew you decently well. You had been around. So anyway, that was cool. A cool start.
Yeah, very cool. Well, tell us about you, Kimberly, and tell us about your journey and all the things.
So before I came to homeopathy, I was very into natural healing, but more from a naturopathic standpoint. And I was, a big believer in, food as medicine and, drinking your water and cleansing and detoxing, and all of these things, kind of like the typical, when you think natural healing, that. Um, and I had been taking classes from a lady, who had been an MD at one point, and she stopped practicing medicine to teach natural healing, and I was just very very into that. And I first found out about homeopathy. I mean, I didn't even know what it was. I'd probably heard the word at some point, but if somebody had asked me, I probably would have said it was herbs or something. I mean, I had no idea. And people were talking about it in the comments section of a Facebook post about fever, like alternatives for Tylenol to bring a fever down, and what to do. And people were talking about belladonna and Joette Calabrese's blog. And so I thought that was interesting. And I went and checked out her blog. I was very surprised to find that homeopathy comes in, these little tubes of sugar pills with Latin names. I mean, that was, I never would have guessed that in a million years. And I was reading about it and I just thought there's no possible way that could work because, it's not doing the detox and the cleansing and the diet. And, and it's like, you've got to cut out your dairy and your gluten and do this and do that. And it's like, I had, all these ideas and it's like, I just thought that was, no possible way. So, closed that website and I didn't look at it again for months. And then some months later, I got a ferociously itchy infection. I don't know if it's a yeast infection, a bacterial infection, but none of the natural stuff I knew to do was working. And I did finally go to the doctor. I was using garlic for it, which killed everything, but I was still itching. I went to the doctor, they, took a swab and ran tests, and it's like, you're negative for everything, and we don't know why you're itchy. And so they sent me home with antibiotics, antifungal, and steroids. They were like, try the antifungal first. If that doesn't work, try the antibiotics. If that doesn't work, then some people just have idiopathic itching and use the steroids, and that's it. And I didn't want to do any of that. And so I'm frantically looking for what else can I do. And I remembered Joette's blog, which, as you know, is searchable. So I'm looking to see what does she have in there, and is there some information on something that maybe can help me. And so I got some of the remedies in there. I got the remedies for the yeast infection. I got the remedies for the bacterial infection, which, were very similar. And this had been going on for about 3 weeks, that I had not slept a full night because of this. I was miserable and I could hardly function. And within taking one dose of arsenicum album, I woke up the next morning with no itching. And I was completely amazed. I mean, I just kind of woke up disoriented. It's like something's missing. What's wrong? It's like, oh, it's the itching. That is what is gone. And it came back like a little bit throughout the day. And so, I added in the Hepar sulf for that. And then I just took the arsenicum album and Hepar sulf. And those were the remedies from her blog. And I did that twice a day. And it totally cleared up within about a week, a little over a week. And have never had an issue with it again. And that was one of the things the doctor said, is it's very common for people to be back to the doctor within about 6 weeks with another one. So that was the beginning. And that was what made me realize that I do not have all the answers and that homeopathy was a big missing piece of my puzzle. So then, I'm just like frantically reading Joette's blog and, ordering remedies. I was still ordering from Amazon because I didn't know where else to get remedies. And I had a tube of remedies showing up, every couple of days. And, my husband's looking at all these packages and, wondering how long is this going to continue? We have a little tube of pills that shows up every couple days. And, and then I got the gateway, found Melissa's class. And then, and I did also have some chronic things too. That was like the first wow moment that it was like, I don't understand how this works, and I don't even care how it works. It's amazing, and I have to learn more. But then the chronic things, I had some eczema on my hands, and I had been struggling with that since 2019. It started in 2019, and it was awful, and it would crack and it would bleed. I mean, I went for probably about 2 years that I could not use soap on my hands. I had a cleaner that was like distilled water and vinegar with a little vodka and some peppermint oil. I would use that if I really had to get my hands dirty, or I would wear gloves. And I just tried my best to not use any cleanser on my hands because they were so bad. And my hands have totally cleared up. I had food sensitivities that were contributing to that, not like major allergies, but dairy and gluten were definitely not my friend. I can eat whatever I want, and my skin does not have a flare up. And I also kind of had some mild acne, just, from when I was a teenager, never went away. I mean, I'm almost 40 now, and that's finally gone. And I wasn't really trying to get rid of that, just in working on other things, it just kind of went away. Um, and then, oh, and the cat allergy. I was very badly allergic to cats. My cat that I currently have showed up on my doorstep right around the time I started learning about homeopathy. And my plan was just to help him out through the winter. So I would let him stay in the house I mean, he was just a stray cat that I started feeding, and I'd let him stay in the house if it was a really cold night, which, I live in Houston. We don't have that many really cold nights. But within a couple hours of having him in the house, I would be coughing and wheezing, like I was about to die. And if I had him in the house for, more than a night or two, I mean, it was just like, I need a break. He's got to go outside. And I didn't think I would ever be able to like have a full-time cat. Well, that cat is my cat now. He sleeps with me every night, and I have no issues with him.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Those are some great success stories,
And that's just what's happened in my life.
right? Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. And so you got all excited and you started using homeopathy and
Hmm.
for yourself and your family. Did you start treating your husband?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. He was one of my early guinea pigs, and I can tell you, sepia is the remedy that made him a believer. Um, but also, I mean, one of the early things that happened, I remember, he had, and this was, I had first, this was in 22, so it was, very early on. And, I had gotten the Banerjee kit from Taproots, which, the friend that told me about you in the first place, she had recommended that. It's like, if I had it to do over again, I would get this. And I thought, this thing is really expensive. It's kind of an investment. But I did buy it, and that kit paid for itself within the first year of owning it. Um, so my husband, his eye infection, and I used a Banerjee protocol for that. It was a quite severe infection. And, at first, he was thinking it was allergies, tried some of the allergy remedies, and it didn't really do too much. And I'm looking in the Banerjee book, and there was a protocol for conjunctivitis. And within 24 hours, it started to turn around. And then he mentioned to me that he had had a similar infection maybe 5 years earlier. And I asked him, he's a pretty new husband, so I, I hadn't known him a full 5 years at the time. Um, and so I asked him, well, so what happened that time? I said, did it just, go away on its own? Because he's, like most men, is not going to go to the doctor unless he thinks he's going to die sometime within the next 24 hours. And um, and he said no. After about 3 days, his vision started to go black, and he went to the doctor.
Oh,
Yeah, and so this was very similar. No drama. Didn't go to the doctor. It cleared up within about a week, just with the homeopathy. And I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, but I kind of gauge things. It's like if it's getting better, then it's
hmm.
getting better. And
I've had a ton of success with that Banerjee protocol for conjunctivitis.
mhm,
I actually want to say 100%. I feel like it works every single time.
it's a
Hmm.
good one. It's
Yeah,
a really good one. I was amazed.
yeah,
And
awesome.
then, another one of the early successes, my cat is also a frequent recipient of homeopathy.
Hmm.
And so, and I can't remember if this was before or after my husband's eye infection, but the cat got a urinary blockage. and I used homeopathy for him. He was unblocked within 4 hours and saved us an emergency trip to the vet. Um, and I can tell you, my cat much prefers homeopathy to going to the emergency room to be
Of
catheterized.
course. I
So,
love it.
and I was keeping a close eye on him. I was like, if he's not better by bedtime, we're going to the emergency room. But he got
Mhm.
better, and I've since changed his diet, and he's never had another one since.
Yeah.
But the first time it happened, that was a $700 bill,
Yeah.
and to not have to do
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
so that right there paid for my homeopathy kit.
Oh, so good. So good.
I don't have anything specific except I did want to ask about your like over time as you've been because your story has lots of different things.
Mhm.
So when did it become for you? When did it go from like, okay, I'm using this for my family to I want to do this or I think I want to do this as a job or you know what I mean? Like how did it become like a bigger part of your life? But I do feel like this kind of happens a lot. Like how do you not?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, even before I found homeopathy, I was wanting to, start some kind of like a natural health coaching business or do something. And I had some really good results just in my, pre-homeopathy life, helping friends and family with things. And then when I found homeopathy, I was like, I can't keep going in this direction because I just feel like so much is missing. And I started using homeopathy more and more and more, and I just felt like I can't even go in this other direction anymore. But I also kind of felt like starting over, well, how long is that going to take, and how do I do that? And maybe it's too late. And so I started looking at where did I find out about Robin Murphy's class? I know Melissa, you're an alumni, but there was also a lady in the Facebook group who was talking about it, and um, I think maybe she had shared some things from the Lotus website. And so I was looking on there and, looking at the requirements and how long it takes to get through it. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I remember, something that my aunt told me many years ago is time passes anyway. And in 2 years, you could either have a certificate in homeopathy or you could be sitting right where you are. But
So
time will
good.
pass anyway.
Yeah, it's good.
And so, just started putting one foot in front of the other, it just got to be where now it's like that's the first thing I do is homeopathy. I don't really even think about any of these other things, and I feel like it's so much more accessible and so much easier for people to use because my old way, my old life, if somebody asked me what do you do about this or that or the other, a big part of the answer was going to be essentially you're never going to eat anything fun again because, no processed food and no sugar and no gluten and no dairy and no this and no that. And it's like turn your whole entire life upside down. And, and just the way, there's toxins everywhere, just the world the way it is very, very hard to avoid all of these things. And to not have to, I mean, now my approach is, well, try your best and pray over your food, and that's about it.
Love it. Yep.
And it's so liberating. And because I worked so hard on the eczema on my hands, I mean, I didn't eat fun things. I, didn't eat processed food, and I didn't eat dairy, and I didn't eat gluten, and I didn't eat sugar. And if I ate one little thing that I wasn't supposed to eat, I would have a flare up that would take me a week to calm down. And it was so hard, and it didn't get well. It was all that work to tread water and now to be able to eat whatever I want. Not that I should and I try not to, but I can.
That's right. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you can go, you know what I tell people, the minimal goal is that you can go to a party or a restaurant and not have to worry about what's in the food. The
Yeah.
ultimate goal is that you can purposely eat these things at least sometimes.
Mhm.
Maybe you can't overdo it, but we're not going to go back to eating Doritos and whatever else I used to like to eat. I still like Doritos. But have a little bit occasionally, right? And
Mhm.
I'm fine. It doesn't bother me. Where I thought before, I thought that was it forever. I can never have gluten or dairy or corn ever
Mhm.
again. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been so liberating, and it's just the contrast is night and day, and then also, as I have, gotten more into homeopathy, the other thing I started to realize is that a lot of these things that I used to do, even though they're natural, some of them are still suppressive, where it's acting on the problem. It's not stimulating your body to heal the problem. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, like the endless parasite cleanses. I mean, I was definitely that person. It's like you got to get your parasites out, and if you have a problem, parasites are probably a big part of it. And I mean, I remember somebody asking in your class, when I was taking Gateway, well, what do you do about parasites? And I was just on the edge of my seat to find out tell us, what do you do about them? And I remember your answer, I think, was like, well, if you don't have a medical diagnosis or you haven't actually seen a worm, then nothing. Don't worry about it. And I've since learned that, if you have parasites, a lot of times they're the cleanup crew. They're there for a reason. But as you improve your vitality, a lot of these things will just go away.
Mhm.
And I saw that, that with my cat as well. So, he had fleas last summer. Last summer, it feels like forever ago. And the summer before that, when he had fleas, I had tried homeopathy. I tried some remedies, tried some of this, tried some of that, and I just couldn't get it under control. I ended up giving him the flea medicine. Shortly after that, he came down with food allergies and ataxia. And I mean, it was maybe a month later. In my mind, I think that's connected, and ataxia is a side effect that's listed for these flea remedies. So then when he got fleas again the following year, last summer, I, was determined. It's like, I've got to figure out a way to deal with this without giving him flea medicine, because I didn't, he's doing really well. And when he has like a dizzy spell, I give him homeopathy, and he hasn't had one in a really long time. But I was determined I was not giving him more flea medicine. And I was reading, another homeopath in another group was talking about the fleas and just raising the animal's vitality, and they will go away. And she didn't have to go through even, the endless vacuuming and all the crazy things we do to get rid of fleas naturally. And I tried some different remedies with him, and I don't know, it was a different remedy, but I don't know if there was just some, an element of, faith or determination or something, but those fleas went away. And I was using a little bit of, it's called parasite powder. It's got diatomaceous earth and I think some neem and some things. I dust him with that every day, comb him for fleas, give him his remedy. Um, and it didn't take that long. It was within a few weeks and the fleas went.
Love it.
Mm.
Yep. I love it. My dogs haven't had fleas or tick. They'll get the occasional tick, but we don't battle. We live out here in the woods. We don't get
Mhm.
My dogs don't get fleas and ticks.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, go.
So I do want to know, just I'm interested in when you were doing the health coach or you wanted to do that and then
Mhm.
homeopathy, do you like the people interaction more or do you like the learning, like the desire to learn, or maybe both? I'm sure there's elements of both, obviously. You have to be sort of a people person to want to do coaching. But was it like, I love all this stuff, I can't wait to help other people, or the hunger for the knowledge? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Obviously, there's elements of both, but which one was more enticing to you at the beginning?
Um, it's hard to say. I think it's definitely both. And just finding out that there's solutions to things that I thought were unsolvable, and
Mm.
just that you think there's nothing you can do about this. And and one of the things that I learned, from that, from the more naturopathic, I guess, method teaching, the things I learned that I have carried with me is scrap meats. I still use scrap meats a lot, and I've seen really good results with that. So I love using that in conjunction with homeopathy, but that's the only thing that I've really carried with me that I still use. And because I do feel like it's something that's not suppressive.
Hmm.
Um, but anyways, so I kind of got a little bit off track. So to answer your question, yes, both. So I love learning about these things, but just being able to help somebody and being able to offer somebody some hope, when they're like, I have bone on bone pain and I don't know what to do about it. And, and like these scrap meats, I mean, I think everybody I've ever given these to, shared the recipe, they tried it, they'll notice a difference within about a week.
Wow.
Okay,
And
Is that,
so
what is that, like you make a broth out of it, or what are you saying? I mean,
that's
I
what
get
I'm
with
saying.
scrap meat, like I know what those are. What do you do with them?
I make a soup, and the broth by itself is probably not enough. You got to eat the squishy bits.
You eat it.
You
All
do.
right.
You
Okay.
do. But I mean, I have seen a hernia heal without medical intervention. And even, I had a chronic neck injury from being in multiple car accidents, and that healed before I ever found out about homeopathy just from that.
Were you eating the soup every single day?
Um, Not every day. I was eating it several times a week for a while, but I feel like it's
Right.
something that kind of once I mean, we don't really eat collagen in this country. I mean, it's, steak and boneless, skinless chicken breasts. So we don't get a lot of that connective
No.
tissue. But I feel like once you kind of have restored your reserves, you don't need to eat it very often. I hardly ever eat it anymore. And homeopathy also helps a lot. But I feel like sometimes, with some of these things like bone on bone pain or something where, homeopathy can't make you regrow cartilage, but giving your body these building blocks, I have been absolutely shocked at what will heal. And I
Okay.
think the
Wow.
homeopathy just stimulates that healing process and just helps it go even faster.
I want your recipe.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I'll
want
definitely
that.
share the recipe.
Okay.
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Maybe we could post your recipe. Is that something you want to
And
share publicly with everyone?
Yeah, yeah, I can share it. I actually shared it in the Facebook group once upon a time.
Okay.
It's in there somewhere, but I can definitely send it to you and
Okay. And
yeah.
then we'll post it with this video and with the podcast
Okay.
episode. Yeah.
okay.
Awesome.
Um, okay, another question, like now that you've been doing, I mean, taking cases for a year, a little over a year, you said, um, what are some of your, so a couple questions. So one, have you found an area that you are really loving to serve, or is it just all of it? And then, what are some of your, like, just some of your favorite stories, some stories of your cases?
Yeah, of course. So I don't know that I found a particular area um, that's like, my area, but I just love all of it. I mean, I love helping people, and especially, when somebody comes back and they are doing so much better, that's the best feeling in the world. Um, so one of them, probably my most dramatic one, I had this lady who came with GERD. She had a bunch of other things. That was one of the main things, and she had been on proton pump inhibitors for 40 years. She got off of those within 9 days, and by the time of the follow up, she wasn't even needing the remedy anymore. And I mean, she was eating bacon and everything. And also, same lady. She also, I believe she was diabetic as well, and she had neuropathy in her legs and feet, and she had been on gabapentin for many, many years, like over 10 years. She had tried many times to get off of it. She got off of her gabapentin within 30 days. And the tingling and the, feeling like bees were walking around on her legs, all that was gone.
Wow.
And I remember her comment to me was that if she had not lived it, she would not have believed it's possible. And, and I was amazed too, because sometimes, these, older people who have, they've been on allopathic medicine for a long time, there's a lot of suppression, and sometimes it can take a really long time. And, at the follow-up, hearing about this, like she was amazed, I was amazed. It was like very inspiring.
That
Very
is very
cool.
cool. I do think
Yeah.
sometimes people come back and I'm like, I expected it to work, obviously, or I wouldn't have said to do that. But when it works that fast or that dramatically, I'm even like, wow, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we're amazed still.
Yeah.
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 It's, yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking this could take some time, and it might, it's like I expected to see something, but I didn't really expect it to work that
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What else, Kimberly? You have another story?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a 9-month-old baby who had been coughing for 6 months, which, is a very long time when you're only 9 months old. And the cough resolved within the first appointment. And a lot of times you don't find out why somebody doesn't come back. But in this case, I was also seeing his brother. And so, the mom, booked a follow-up consult for the brother. And then at his consult, she mentioned that why she had not made a follow-up for the baby. And that was because he got well and he was doing great.
Mm,
So it's just like, I just don't think he needs a follow-up. He's fine. And it's like, I agree. If he's doing great, he's doing great.
yep.
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What else should we know from Kimberly?
Well, on a personal note, I mean, I would love to know, what do you like to do in your spare time? Tell us about your family. I don't know, any fun facts.
Yeah.
Oh, um, let's see. So I'm the youngest of seven, so I have a large family, and I'm very close to my siblings and my mom. I mean, I talk to my mom about every day, and she also is a frequent recipient of homeopathic help. I had some great stories with her as well. And so my mom, she lives fairly close, so I see her pretty frequently. Probably not as often as I would like, but she's about an hour and a half away. So sometimes it's just hard to find time to make the drive out there. But I also have a degree in classical guitar. I used to, once upon a time, I was going to be a musician. So um, definitely a long past life. Um, I feel like homeopathy is really the main thing. I mean, it's something that gives me energy. I don't feel like it's work. Um, I do still have a full-time corporate job, and then I do homeopathy, on the weekends, and put my care plans together, at night after work. But it's just something that I love to do. It gives me energy, and it's always just something I'm excited to come home and do.
Yeah.
Um, I used to dance. I used to do West Coast swing, and that's actually how I met my husband. And
That's fun dancing.
yeah, it is. And I used to go to competitions, and like that was,
So cool.
what I what I was doing back when I was young and single and didn't have anything better to spend my money on.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
so yeah, so I met my husband, and I feel like I've become another one of those people who it's like, yeah, we met dancing and then we never went again.
Yep.
We do every now and then. I think also things just changed a lot with COVID and kind of the community, and it's just like the community just really kind of atrophied a lot. So, but we've been talking about we should go dancing sometime soon, so we'll probably
Mm,
go. And I also do country western. I mean, I live in a suburb of Houston, so everybody does country dancing around here.
yeah.
It's so fun.
So fun. So fun. Um, I love this. And so the main point of doing this is so that potential clients can see you and hear your voice and just see all the beauty that I see all the time every time I talk to you. And we're in close contact. I always tell people, when I tell them you can work with Kimberly, um, or me. And so, all eczema cases go to Bree. So if it's not eczema, then I'm like, I've got Kimberly or Abby or me, and then I just get to tell them it's fine for me to tell them what I think about you. But for them, I think now they're going to get to see you and hear your voice and hear your story. And it just makes it nicer just to know kind of who you're going to be working with ahead of time. So is there anything else you want to add, Kimberly, that you'd like to say to people? Because I think I'm going to put, not I think I am going to put this video right on your bio. Is there anything else you want to say?
Um, I mean, just that I so appreciate the people who do choose to work with me, and I definitely, pour my heart and soul into, helping my clients. And putting together their care plans, and I put a lot of care and a lot of research, and I really think through it, and I love doing this, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to help anybody who shows up on my appointment schedule.
I can see that.
And
Yeah.
if I can just add from, I mean, my experience working with you, working alongside you, you have a brilliant mind.
Mm.
And I mean, are so kind and so sweet, so thoughtful. But you can tell that you put a lot of thought, that you study a lot, like you remember so much. Like it really, I've learned a lot from working with you. So thank you. You've taught me a lot. And I've really, I mean, I love our team is the best. I love
The
it.
best. The
Yeah.
best. Yeah,
I
I
Yeah,
really
we
agree.
really have a great time. So, I mean, a lot of we will share together in a chat that we have and share back and forth. So, Kimberly has like helped me think through different clients and different cases and you know, where things just I don't know, you need outside input. So,
Yeah,
thank you. It's been great. We've loved
it has.
having you here.
Thank
I
you so
agree.
much. I mean, I love our little group chat and just, having people to bounce ideas off of. And I learned so much from all the things, all the things that we talk about in there. It's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great team, great team. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for being here and just sharing your story with people. And I know that they're going to be blessed by hearing it. And thank you all for tuning in and listening and watching this. And again, if you want to leave fan mail, click the link to text me. And you can leave a question and we'll read it and we'll answer it and share this video. Oh, so Kimberly. Let me say lastly, if you want to work with Kimberly, you fill out the free 15-minute phone call on my website, right? Is there anything else you want, other ways they could connect with you that you would like to share? Like Instagram or
Um, I do have an Instagram. Yeah, if they want to follow me on Instagram, which I'm not always as active as I would like to be, just, busyness of life. Sometimes Instagram is what falls off. But if anybody sends me a message on there, I'll definitely get back to them. So that is KME_homeopathy is my name on Instagram.
nice. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so if you fill out the free 15-minute phone call on my website, then I'm going to be the one that talks to you and then I disperse. And so also on that form, you can check who you want to work with if you have a preference. So, except if you have eczema, you're going to Bree because Bree's the eczema expert.
Well, and I also want people to know, just like on our team, nobody cares. Like it's not personally offensive if you're like, I really want to work with Kimberly or Abby or Melissa.
No.
I mean, I just think we're all cheering for each other and it's fine. Like we're just here to help people. So I don't know if people feel weird, like requesting a person, but do it. That's great.
Yeah,
Different people
that's
care
right.
differently and it's great.
That's right. Yep. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you all have a great night. Thanks for being here. See you next time.